Hi everyone, very good afternoon and welcome back to CGB Mentors. So in this particular class, we'll be discussing about the part 2 of your module B, right? There are some questions left from different kind of chapters, so we'll be covering this in this particular session. So let us start. Number 1, which of the following is not a party involved in a typical credit card transaction cycle? Obviously, by looking at the options, we know they are talking about RBI. RBI is never going to get involved in a typical credit card transaction cycle. So, option number C is the correct answer. Now, what distinguishes an open loop credit card system from the closed loop system? Now the basic difference is open loop systems involve multiple banks and centralized processing that is missing in the closed loop system. Like open loop system like Visa, MasterCard, etc. involves multiple banks, requires interbank cooperation, whereas a closed loop system like American Express, Diners Club, the same entity issues the card and they settle the transaction, right? So merchant and card holders, they directly contact with the issuer. There are no third party banks which are involved. Now, which organization launched the RuPay card scheme in India and what type of system does it follow? So we are talking about NPCI, and obviously it follows the open loop system because RuPay is on the lines of Visa and MasterCard, right? Then you are having which of the following correctly matches a credit card type with its description? So over here, co-branded card, it is issued by the bank in partnership with service providers. They are offering additional benefits like Axis Bank Flipkart card, right? So Axis Bank, if they have partnered with Flipkart, so over here it is a co-branded card where there would be brand logo of both the kind of entities over here, right? Then you are having which of the following roles is not performed by the credit card sponsors like Visa or MasterCard. वो क्या नहीं करते? So they do not issue directly to the retail customers. Fine. What they do is they do global transaction processing, communication infrastructure, and they set standards, but directly dealing with the retail customers is not what the Visa and MasterCard does. Now, what is the key difference between a credit card and a charge card, right? So, credit cards, they allow revolving credit while the charge cards require full payment monthly. आप जितना charge करोगे उतना use कर सकते हो. In the credit card, whatever amount you are using, you just have to replenish that particular amount, right? Next, which of the following statements correctly differentiates co-branded credit card from proprietary credit card? So, in this particular case, co-branded and the proprietary credit cards, they are issued in collaboration with service providers and they offer additional benefits. So co-branded cards are issued by the banks in collaboration with the service providers like the airlines, oil companies, hotels, and they offer additional incentives, whereas there are proprietary cards on the other hand, they are issued solely by the banks. Proprietary card means they have got different brandings. For example, Axis has got Neo, Axis has got Select, Axis has got Platinum, likewise. Fine. Next is which of feature is mandatory for online credit card transaction as per the RBI guidelines for enhanced security. So it has to be verified by the Visa MasterCard secure code, right? So that is mandated by the RBI. Which of the following is a unique benefit of Bharat QR compared to the other QR systems? So what is the benefit? So it's the first interoperable payment acceptance solution which is supporting Visa, MasterCard as well as the RuPay. That is the unique benefit of the Bharat QR. Now, what is the primary implication of paying only the minimum amount due on a credit card each month? If you will pay only the minimum amount due, you have to pay the interest on the entire outstanding balance, and that becomes too much, right? So that is the problem. Now, which of the following types of prepaid instruments allow cash withdrawals at ATMs and point of sale terminals? So open system PPIs, right? Prepaid payment instruments, they allow you the cash withdrawal at ATMs or the point of sale terminal. For example, these are issued by the banks for your purchases, remittances and cash withdrawal. Closed and semi-closed prepaid instruments, they do not permit the cash withdrawal, like a virtual gift card. Now, which of the following is a key difference between a charge card and credit card? That we have already done. Next is what is the primary reason for high interest rate and charges on the credit card dues? क्या है reason? Because they are unsecured and prone to defaults. So that is why interest margins are kept really high to cover the losses that might happen on the go. So उन losses को cover करने के लिए, because they are unsecured and prone to default, that is why high interest rates are kept. Now, which of the following conditions is true regarding the cross-border outward transaction using the prepaid payment instrument? So, card-based prepaid payment instrument for cross-border transaction, it should be EMV chip, right? Euro, Mastercard, Visa chip and the PIN compliant. So, EMV chip and PIN compliant, it should be happened. It should be there for the cross-border outward transaction. Next, as per the RBI guidelines, which of the following is not permitted while issuing the debit cards? So, issuing offline debit cards to cash credit account holders, right? CC account holders, to them we are not going to issue the offline debit cards. That is a big no-no. Fine. Next, what distinguishes a contactless smart card from a contact smart card? So, for a contactless smart card, it uses a radio frequency for communication, right? Like just your FASTag. How does the FASTag operates? On the same kind of principle, it also operates. Next is, which obligation is placed on the banks regarding PIN security for debit cards as per the RBI guidelines? RBI guidelines के हिसाब से कौन सी चीजें की रखी जाती हैं? So banks must ensure that they do not disclose PIN except to the card holder. Now, which of the following is a mandatory requirement under RBI guideline before issuing the debit cards to the customer? So obviously, KYC compliance must be done before issuing the debit cards to the customer. Then you are having, which of the following statements about the demand draft is incorrect? So, the incorrect statement is a demand draft can be made payable to the bearer. That is wrong, right? We cannot just make it payable to the bearer, as that would make it equivalent to a currency note, which is not allowed. Okay, legal tender, we have just the rupees or the currency we are having, and demand draft cannot be equivalent to that. They are negotiable instruments and they can be treated as checks, but not to the bearer. They has to be paid to the specified person. Now, what is the settlement mechanism used by NEFT for processing transactions? तो कैसे process करते हैं? So they defer the net settlement in half-hourly batches. कैसे transactions process होते हैं? Half-hourly batches में. Now, next is, which of the following charges are applicable to inward NEFT transactions received by the beneficiaries as the destination bank? So, for receiving, there are no charges, right? And for paying also, there are no charges as such. Now, next is, which of the following is not a key feature of NEFT after the changes has been introduced in 2019? So, transactions are not settled in real time. They are settled in the बैचेस, हाफ आवर्ली बैचेस. रियल टाइम में ग्रॉस बेसिस पे सेटलमेंट आपका नहीं होता है. नेक्स्ट इज, what is the penalty for delay in crediting the beneficiary account under NEFT? So RBI LAF repo rate plus 2%, that is the penalty if the beneficiary account has not been credited. Now, what is the mode used for transmitting NEFT, RTGS, remittances, messages securely between the banks? So for communication infrastructure for transmitting the information regarding the NEFT and RTGS between the banks, banks use structured financial management system, SFMS, right? Which is obviously developed in India for the interbank communication. Now, in the NEFT process flow, what is the current sequence of the 5 key parties which are involved in the fund transfer transaction? So, over here the current sequence is sending bank, sending service center, NEFT clearing center, receiving service center, and then beneficiary branch. So, this is how the whole transaction of NEFT flows. Now, next is what is the minimum amount that can be transferred through RTGS? So, this is 2 lakh rupees. What is the minimum amount for NEFT? Though no minimum amount, right? RTGS mein there is a minimum amount called as, it is 2 lakh rupees, but there is no upper ceiling for the RTGS. And so, there is no upper ceiling for NEFT also. What is the maximum time within which the beneficiary's account should be credited? So, for RTGS, after receiving the RTGS transfer messages, so within 30 minutes has to be credited, right? Next is under the NEFT system, in case of funds transfer is delayed or erroneous due to the bank's negligence, तो फिर क्या होगा? Refund of the amount along with the interest at bank rate. So this is the bank's liability if there is any problem on the bank's negligence part. Now, which of the following statements about RTGS service timing and associated charges is incorrect? So, if they are asking you the incorrect statement, right? So, inward RTGS transactions may attract a maximum charge of 25. That is wrong, right? Inward transactions, they are free of charge. ठीक है? Outward transactions पे there are charges. Receiving के लिए कोई charges नहीं है basically. Now, what is the which of the following best describes the key function of the ECS? ECS का क्या होता है? These are bulk electronic transactions for repetitive and periodic payments or receipts. So suppose there is one company from whom I have taken a loan. So now they will present the ECS every month. It's a repetitive transaction. So one time mandate has been given. Now every month I am going to receive the mandate and I'll pay the payment. Now, which ECS variant covers all core banking enabled branches across India through a centralized location? So that is National ECS, right? So NECS is operated centrally from Mumbai and it facilitates the electronic payment, all core banking enabled branches nationwide. Now, what is one of the major improvements of the NACH over ECS? क्या है major improvement? So, mandate management system with standardized format and verification. This is a good update that has come in the NACH, right? Which system was introduced by the NPCI to facilitate the direct benefit transfer using Aadhaar? I hope everybody knows it. This is Aadhaar payment bridge. That has been used by the NPCI so that the direct benefit transfer can be made by utilizing the Aadhaar. Now, what is the main difference between local ECS, regional ECS and national ECS? It is all about the geographical coverage that they are doing, right? Local, regional and ECS. Local is city based, RECS covers states or group of states, and your national ECS is nationwide. What is the role of sponsor banks in the ECS transaction? So they initiate the instructions to the ECS center on the behalf of users. This is the role of the sponsor bank. Now, what ensures the final or irrevocable nature of settlement in ECS debit, right? So, what suggests this? Multilateral netting by the clearing house. The settlement in ECS debit clearing is done by the multilateral netting and it is final and irrevocable once completed by the clearing house. अगर एक बार आपका ECS deduct हो गया, then it is irrevocable and these kind of settlements are done on the basis of multilateral netting. Now, what significant change occurred in the NACH system? क्या change हुआ है? तो NACH become available on all 7 days of the week. You want to do NEFT, you want to do RTGS system, that is available 24/7. Now, what does the mandate management system in NACH primarily facilitate? So, management of debit credit mandates. This is what the mandate management system in the NACH does. What is NACH? It is the automated clearing house, right? It helps in settling your transactions in a systematic way. Now, under the Bharat Bill Payment System, who acts as a central unit responsible for setting standards and settlement of transactions, right? So, over here, the correct answer is National Payments Corporation of India. NPCI functions as Bharat Bill Payment Central Unit. It sets business rules, technical standards, handles clearing and settlements for the BBPS transactions. Now, which of the following services is not offered under Aadhaar enabled payment system? कौन सी services जो हैं वो offer नहीं की जाती हैं? So, this is fixed deposit booking. We don't give it under the Aadhaar enabled payment system. What it allows is cash withdrawal, deposit, balance inquiry, mini statement, Aadhaar to Aadhaar fund transfer. These are the services that you can use on the basis of your Aadhaar enabled payment system. Now, which component is mandatory in a mandate amendment or cancellation request under the mandate management system? So, over here, unique mandate reference number. This is a mandatory amendment. So, it is an amendment cancellation request as it uniquely identifies the mandate. So, your UMRN number is something that you have to remember if we are talking with respect to mandate management system. Now, which participant in BBPS is responsible for onboarding the agent institutions? So, this particular participant is BBPOU, that is Customer Operating Unit. They has been authorized by the RBI and they are responsible for onboarding the agent institutions. Now, what was the primary reason behind the establishment of IDRBT in 1996? To spearhead the technology absorption in the banking and financial sector. This has been the motto behind the development of Institute for Development and Research in Banking Technology. Right, it was also remember that it was established on the basis of the Saraf Committee recommendation for development and research in the banking technology. Now, which of the following is not a function of Indian financial network? So, online trading, yes. Real-time processing, yes. Interbank reconciliation, yes, but the issuance of international credit card, this is not something which this Indian financial network does, right? It is not involved in the issuance of credit cards. Now, which feature of the structured financial management system makes it comparable to SWIFT? Okay. So, what it does, it provides secure messaging platform for the financial communication. SFMS we use in the national territory, whereas SWIFT we use for the international territory, right? Then we have which of the following does not represent a benefit of using the infinite in the banking operations. So, real-time stock market investment, this is not a benefit, right? It facilitates a banking financial services like RTGS, NEFT, ECS or government security trading, but we do not, it does not help us in the real-time stock market investment, right? Which of the following is not one of the three fundamental service models in the cloud computing? So, data as a service, yes. Software as a service, yes. Platform as a service, yes. Infrastructure as a service. So, over here they are asking which one of the not one of the three fundamental service models in the cloud computing. So, data as a service, this is the correct option. Three main cloud service model is software as a service, platform as a service as well as infrastructure as a service. It is not one of the cloud computing classification. Now, which cloud model is used when infrastructure is shared between organizations with common security? So, for them we use community clouds, right? Now, which of the following is a key feature of a wealth management solution? So, end-to-end processing of the investment products, and this is one of the key feature of the wealth management solution that is provided in the banking. We do the end-to-end processing of your investment products. Now, how do the wealth management solutions help bank target high net worth individuals? कैसे target करते हैं? By using the integrated analysis and the financial planning tools that are available with them. What is the major advantage of straight through processing in wealth management solution? क्या है major advantage यहाँ पे? So over here, see, if you're doing this, it minimizes the operational delays and ensures a seamless transaction flow. And this is what the major improvement of STP is. STP is basically consistent processing of transaction and there is no manual intervention which is needed over here. And hence it ensures the operational efficiency. Now, what is the cooling off period in the context of RBI digital lending framework? So, it is a time during which a borrower can exit the loan by repaying the principal as well as the APR without penalty. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे आप पे कर सकते हैं जो भी आपका proportionate amount है. What classification has RBI given to the digital lenders for regulatory purposes? क्या classification दी हुई है? So regulated entity, statutory entity and unregulated entity. This is the classification which the RBI has given to the digital lenders in order to regulate them. What is required to be disclosed to the borrower under RBI's digital lending rules before executing a loan contract? क्या क्या आपको disclose करना पड़ेगा यहाँ पे? So there is a statement called as key fact statement which will also include the APR, right? So this is what the RBI has to disclose before the giving the any kind of digital loan, so that the transparency is there while providing the loan. In EMI based retail loan repayments, which of the following is true regarding the structure of payments over time? क्या सही है यहाँ पे? So the principal component increases while the interest decreases over टाइम. धीरे धीरे देखो इनिशियली क्या होता है, इंटरेस्ट ज्यादा चार्ज करते हैं बिकॉज द आउटस्टैंडिंग अमाउंट इज टू मच, बट स्लोली एंड स्टडीली एज द प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट गेट्स ऑन रिड्यूस्ड, राइट, देन योर इंटरेस्ट कॉम्पोनेंट्स ऑल्सो डिक्रीजेस, राइट. Next is, which of the following does not typically lead to a classification of borrower as a willful defaulter? Does not lead to. So the borrower suffers a temporary business setback due to market changes, very fine, and will not label him as willful defaulter. But if he fails to repay despite having the capacity, borrower diverts the fund for unrelated purpose, or borrower sells the collateral without lender's consent, then he will be considered as a willful defaulter, right? Next is, what is the rescheduling in the context of retail loans? So, changing the repayment schedule to accommodate the borrower's capacity. This is what we call as rescheduling in the context of retail loans. Now, which of the following types of repayment methods involve paying the entire loan and interest in one single payment at the end of the loan term? So, over here, this is called as bullet payment, right, where we are paying you entire loan and interest in one single payment. So this is bullet payment. Next is, a borrower is facing a temporary job loss but is willing to repay once re-employed. How should the bank classify this? So he'll be called as a genuine default. उसको हम genuine default बोलेंगे. Next is, which of the following is correct definition of a loss asset? So an asset with no realizable value and which seems to be uncollectible in nature will be called as a loss asset, right? Which subcategory of special mention account indicates an overdue between 31 to 60 days? So over here you have to see this. SMA 0, 1 to 30 days. 31 to 60, SMA 1, 61 to 90 days overdue, it will be called as SMA 2, and after that it will become an NPA. Now, under the income recognition IRAC norms, when does a loan becomes a non-performing asset? So, कितने दिन का limit है आपका? 90 days का. If it remains overdue interest or installment for more than 90 days. Next is, what is the cutoff limit for invoking penal provisions in case of willful default? Just leave this question right now. Which of the following is not an accepted penal measure against willful defaulter? So offering one-time settlement at concessional rate, this is not an accepted penal measure because they have defaulted willfully. So you cannot give them the settlement at concessional rate, right? There would be legal criminal proceedings, denial of further credit, change of management, and board restrictions would be there. What is the provisioning requirement for loss assets that are not written off from the books? So 100% of the amount you have to save because it is considered that it is non-recoverable in the future. What is the provisioning requirement for the unsecured portion of a doubtful asset? अगर कोई unsecured portion है doubtful asset का तो उसके लिए भी हम 100% जो है provision बनाएंगे because we do not have any collateral. Now, what is the additional provisioning requirement for unsecured substandard asset? The first step itself, right? So, for that, you will prepare a provision of 10%, right? So, substandard asset generally attracts a general provision 15%. If it is unsecured, an additional 10% will also be required. So, bringing the total to 25%. Now, which of the following loan categories attracts the lowest provisioning requirement for standard asset? So, सबसे कम हम किस पे लेते हैं? हाउसिंग लोन्स पे, because that is we do have collateral for that. ठीक है, तो इसीलिए हम सबसे ज्यादा कम इसी पे चार्ज करते हैं. Even though it is standard, we need to create a little bit of provision on this. But out of all the standard assets, the minimum provision we make is on the housing loans. Now, how is an unsecured exposure defined under provisioning norms for substandard asset? So, unsecured exposure को आप किस तरीके से define करते हैं यहाँ पे? So, exposure whose realizable value is less than 10% of the outstanding, which was in initial time period. So, we call it as unsecured exposure. Now, what is the bank's right of lien and set off against the borrower's deposit? So, it allows the banks to adjust any borrower's deposit against the outstanding dues, right? So, bank has got the right to of lien and set off. If the borrower has any current saving account or term deposit with the bank, bank can set it off, okay, with the loan amount. Now, under which of the following conditions can action be initiated under CAIIB Act? So, if the loan account is an NPA with dues of more than 20% of principal and outstanding over 1 lakhs, right? Now, next is as per CAIIB Act, how many days must be given to the borrower to repay the dues after demand notice is served? So, at least 60 days has to be given. Now, what is the minimum notice period required for first sale of immovable secured asset under CAIIB? तो अगर आप बेच रहे हैं तो कितने दिन का आपको नोटिस देना चाहिए? So, at least 30 days notice has to be served to the borrower so that he can take the suitable action. Now, a borrower wishes to challenge the possession of his secured asset by the bank. What is the correct forum and timeline to do so under CAIIB? So, DRAT within 45 days, if the borrower wishes to challenge the possession of his collateral with the bank, he can do it with the DRT within 45 days. Now, under the CAIIB Act, who is authorized to take the physical possession of the secured asset and must be present during such a particular action? So, authorized officer with the presence of 2 witnesses is entitled to take the physical possession of the collateral. Next, which of the following asset is explicitly excluded from recovery under the CAIIB Act? So, agricultural land, this is excluded from recovery as it is protected for the farmer's interest. Now, what is the minimum debt threshold? So, just leave this particular question. Which of the following is true regarding the awards passed by the Lok Adalats? So, it is considered as a decree of civil court and it is final and binding. Whatever judgment the Lok Adalat gives, it is considered as a judgment of a civil court, has got all the powers of civil courts. And what percentage of debt must be deposited when filing an appeal against a DRT order? अगर आपको appeal file करना है, so first deposit 50% of the debt amount or whatever has been decided by the DRT, whichever is less, and then your appeal can be registered. So this is it in this particular part. Thank you so much for joining in.